I know what I'm about to say might sound impossible, maybe even naive, but I need you to hear this, because somewhere deep in your bones, you've felt it too. That quiet certainty, that gravity pulling you towards someone you haven't even met yet. I'm talking about her, my future wife. And here's the strange part. My heart already knows it's you. Not because I've seen your face, or memorized your voice. Not because some algorithm matched us, or fate carved our names into stone. But because something inside me has been preparing for you. Building. Waiting. Learning how to hold space for what we're going to create together. And I don't mean some fairy tale. I mean something real. Something that asks for presence, not perfection. Something that demands I become the man worthy of the partnership we're going to build. So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt someone before you knew them? Have you ever carried a conversation in your mind with a person who doesn't exist yet, and somehow it felt more honest than anything you've said out loud? That's where I live right now. In the tension between knowing and not knowing, between faith and logic, between this moment and the one where I finally look into your eyes and say, I've been talking to you for years. I used to think certainty was something you earned, that it came after proof, after time, after someone showed up enough times that doubt finally got tired and left the room. But that's not how this works. Not with her, not with you. Because certainty isn't always the product of evidence. Sometimes it's the foundation you build on before the evidence even arrives. Let me tell you what I mean. There's a difference between knowing someone's name and knowing their gravity. Between memorizing facts and feeling the pull. And right now, even though we haven't crossed paths yet, I feel your gravity. It's not logical. It's not something I can defend in an argument or write on a whiteboard. But it's real. My heart knows you the way my lungs know air. Not because I've studied it, because I can't survive without it. You want to know the strangest part? I've been preparing for you without even realizing it. All the work I've done on myself, the late nights wrestling with my own ego, the moments I had to admit I wasn't ready, the times I chose growth over comfort, none of it was random. It was preparation. I was becoming the man you're going to need, the man who can hold space for what we're going to build together. And I didn't do it because some guru told me to level up. I did it because something inside me whispered, she's coming. And you better be ready. That's what self-awareness does. It turns chaos into clarity. It helps you see your patterns, your wounds, your blind spots, and it gives you the tools to rewrite them before someone else has to suffer through them. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying I'm present. I'm saying I've done the work to understand my emotions, my triggers, my strengths, and my shadows. Because when you finally show up, I don't want to hand you a project. I want to hand you a partner. But here's what nobody told me. The certainty I feel about you doesn't erase the fear. It doesn't turn off the part of my brain that asks, what if you're wrong? What if she never comes? What if you're building a dream on thin air? Those voices are still there. They show up at 2 a.m. when I'm alone with my thoughts. They whisper when I see couples who seem to have it all figured out. But I don't let them drive anymore. Because fear and intuition are not the same thing. Fear is loud. It's frantic. It pulls from the past and projects it onto the future. It says, you've been hurt before, so you'll be hurt again. But intuition? Intuition is calm. It's steady. It doesn't scream, it hums. And when I quiet everything else, when I strip away the noise and the overthinking and the desperate need for proof, what's left is a single, undeniable knowing. You're real. This is real. And I'm not crazy for believing it. Tell me, when was the last time you trusted something you couldn't see? When did you last make a decision based purely on the quiet certainty in your chest, even when the world told you to wait for more information? That's where I am, standing at the edge of logic and faith, and choosing to build anyway. Not recklessly, not blindly, but with intention, with presence, with the understanding that the most meaningful things in life rarely come with guarantees. Love doesn't hand you a contract, it hands you a choice. And every single day, I'm choosing you. Now let's talk about trust. Because trust isn't just something that happens between two people. It starts inside you. It starts when you trust your own instincts, your own timeline, your own heart. I've learned that the people who struggle most in relationships aren't the ones who've been hurt. They're the ones who stopped trusting themselves. They gave their inner voice away to someone else's opinion. They let doubt become the loudest thing in the room. And eventually, they couldn't hear their own knowing anymore. I refuse to do that. I refuse to hand you a version of myself that's been hollowed out by second guessing. You deserve someone who knows what he wants, someone who's done the internal work to separate anxiety from insight, fear from truth. And that work? It's not glamorous. It's not something you post about. It's you, alone, asking yourself the hard questions. Am I emotionally available? Am I ready to lead and follow at the same time? Can I hold space for someone else's growth without losing myself? Those questions don't have easy answers, but I've sat with them. I've wrestled with them, and I've arrived at something that feels like solid ground. I'm ready. Not because I have it all figured out, but because I've learned how to show up even when I don't. Here's the thing about shared purpose. It's not something you create on day one. It's something you grow into. It's the slow alignment of two people who stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What do we want?" It's the shift from individual ambition to collective vision. And I already see it. I already see us building something that's bigger than either of us alone. Not because I'm romanticizing the future, but because I've been studying partnership like it's a craft. I've watched relationships fail because one person grew and the other stayed still. I've seen love collapse under the weight of unspoken needs and unmet expectations. And I've learned that the strongest bonds aren't built on passion alone. They're built on mutual empowerment, on the idea that we're not here to complete each other. We're here to amplify each other, to challenge each other, to make each other better, braver, more whole. And that's what I want with you. Not a fairy tale, not some frictionless fantasy where everything just works. I want the messy, beautiful, complicated reality of two people who choose each other every single day, who communicate even when it's uncomfortable, who hold space for each other's evolution, who understand that growth isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. So when I say my heart knows it's you, I'm not speaking from delusion. I'm speaking from preparation, from the deep, quiet certainty that comes when you've done the work and you're finally ready to share the result. I'm speaking from a place of trust, not just in you, but in myself. In the process, in the gravity that's already pulling us together, even if we can't see the full picture yet. And maybe that's the real test. Maybe the real question isn't, how do I know it's her? Maybe it's, am I willing to believe before I have proof? Maybe it's about trusting the pull, the preparation, the quiet knowing that refuses to be silenced by logic. Because some things don't need to be explained. Some things just need to be honored. Have you ever felt that? That pull towards someone who doesn't exist yet in your reality, but already exists in your bones? Barry, that's where I am. Building, preparing, knowing, waiting, not passively, but with purpose, with presence, with the understanding that when you finally arrive, I'll be ready. Not perfect, but present. Not without fear, but with faith. And that faith, it's not blind. It's just early. Let me tell you what scares me most. It's not that you won't show up. It's not that I'll be wrong about this pull I feel. What terrifies me is the idea that I might not be fully present when you do arrive. That I'll be half here, half somewhere else, distracted by ambition, by noise, by the endless scroll of a world designed to steal attention. Because I know this presence is not automatic. It's a discipline. And if I can't master it now, I won't deserve the intimacy we're going to create. Presence is everything. It's the foundation of emotional intimacy. It signals that someone matters. And when you're fully there, not physically parked on a couch while your mind races through tomorrow's problems, but actually there, you create a safe space for vulnerability, for truth, for connection. That's what I'm building right now. The capacity to show up, not just when it's convenient, not just when everything's aligned, but when it's messy, when I'm tired, when the world is loud and demanding, and I have every excuse to be anywhere but here. I've watched relationships die from distraction. I've seen couples sit across from each other at dinner, both staring at screens, both physically present and emotionally absent. And I refuse to become that. I refuse to let the woman I'm meant to build a life with feel unheard, unseen, undervalued. So I'm practicing now. I'm learning how to silence the noise, how to put down the device, how to listen not just for words, but for what lives beneath them. How to give someone my full attention like it's the most important thing I'll do all day. Because when you arrive, it will be. But here's what nobody tells you about presence. It starts with you. Not with her, not with us. With you, alone. Learning how to be emotionally available to yourself. Learning how to tune into your own emotions, your own needs, your own inner dialogue. Because if you can't be present with yourself, if you're constantly running from what you feel, you'll run from her too. I've done that work. The uncomfortable work of sitting with my own emotions instead of numbing them, of asking myself the hard questions. What am I avoiding? What pattern am I repeating? Where am I emotionally unavailable and why? Those questions don't have clean answers. But I've sat with them anyway, because emotional readiness isn't about having it all figured out. It's about having the self-awareness to know when you don't. Self-awareness is the cornerstone. You can't build a healthy relationship without it. It means understanding your emotional triggers, your patterns, your wounds, and knowing how to navigate them without making them someone else's problem. It means recognizing when you're reacting from fear instead of responding from clarity. It means being honest about what you need, what you can give, and where you still have work to do. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I'm saying I'm committed to it. Because when you show up, I don't want to hand you my unprocessed pain. I want to hand you my presence. And that's where trust enters. Not just the trust between us, but the trust I've had to build with myself. The trust that says, I can handle what I feel. I don't need to run. I don't need to fix it all right now. I can sit here in this discomfort and let it teach me something. That kind of self-trust is rare. Most people spend their whole lives avoiding it. They distract themselves. They medicate with work, with screens, with endless motion. They do anything but sit still and face what's real. I used to be one of them. I used to fill every silence with noise, every empty moment with productivity. Because if I stopped, I'd have to feel. And feeling meant confronting the parts of myself I didn't want to see. But that avoidance, it doesn't protect you. It just delays the reckoning. And I'd rather face it now, alone, than 6 months into something beautiful with you, when the stakes are higher and the damage runs deeper. So I've learned how to sit with myself, how to process emotions calmly and thoughtfully, instead of reacting impulsively. How to communicate openly, even when it's uncomfortable, even when I don't have all the answers. Because effective communication isn't about being perfect. It's about being transparent. It's about saying, I don't know how to say this right, but I need to say it anyway. It's about creating a space where honesty is more important than comfort. That's the kind of relationship I want with you. One where we don't hide, where we don't perform, where we show up messy and human and real, and trust that the other person can handle it. Vulnerability is how you build that kind of trust. It shows the other person that you trust them with your innermost thoughts and feelings. And when you do that, you create a space for them to do the same. That's how deep connection happens. Not through perfection, through brave, repeated acts of truth-telling. And that's what I've been preparing for. Not just the good days, not just the easy conversations, but the hard ones. The moments when I'll have to say, I'm scared, or I need help, or I don't know what to do here. The moments when vulnerability feels like weakness, but is actually the strongest thing you can offer. Because real intimacy isn't built in the highlight reel. It's built in the quiet, unglamorous moments when you choose honesty over image. Emotional availability means you have the capacity to form deep connections. It means you're not guarding your heart so protectively that genuine intimacy becomes impossible. And I'm there. I'm emotionally available, not because someone forced me to open up, but because I've done the internal work to heal from past hurts, to forgive myself and others, to approach this us with a clean slate. I'm not bringing unresolved baggage. I'm bringing lessons. I'm bringing growth. I'm bringing a version of myself that's ready to build something healthier and more fulfilling than anything I've known before. Tell me, have you done that work? Have you sat with your own shadows long enough to stop being afraid of them? That's the question that separates readiness from hope. Hope is passive. Readiness is active. It's the result of deliberate, uncomfortable, transformative work. It's goal setting. It's emotional stability. It's the ability to stand on your own 2 feet and say, I don't need you to complete me. I want you to amplify me. And that distinction, it changes everything. Because I'm not looking for someone to save me. I'm not looking for someone to fill the gaps. I'm looking for someone to build with. Someone who brings their own foundation and says, let's create something neither of us could build alone. That's shared vision. That's aligned values. That's two people who understand that partnership isn't about merging into one. It's about staying whole while creating something bigger together. And I already see it. I already see us setting mutual goals, aligning our paths, building a shared future that honors both of our individual aspirations. Not because I'm delusional, but because I've studied what makes partnerships last. I've watched relationships thrive when both people are emotionally ready, self-aware, and committed to growth. And I've watched them collapse when one person stays still while the other evolves. I refuse to be the one who stays still. I refuse to be the one who gets comfortable and stops growing. Because growth isn't optional in a healthy relationship, it's the rhythm. It's the constant mutual evolution that keeps things alive. It's the willingness to challenge each other, to push each other, to say, I believe in who you're becoming, and I'll hold space for that becoming even when it's messy. That's what I'm offering you, not perfection, not a finished product, but a partner who's done the work to be emotionally ready, who understands the power of presence, who's willing to be vulnerable, to communicate openly, to show up even when it's hard, who's built self-trust and self-awareness and knows that the best relationships are built on two whole people choosing each other every single day. So when I say my heart knows it's you, I'm not speaking from fantasy. I'm speaking from preparation, from readiness, from the deep certainty that comes when you've done everything you can to become worthy of what you're asking for. And what I'm asking for is this: a partnership built on trust, presence, and shared purpose. A love that doesn't require us to shrink, or perform, or hide. A connection so real that we can't imagine choosing anything else. That's what's waiting for us. And I'm ready. There's something I need you to understand about shared purpose. It's not something you manufacture on a first date or force into existence because it sounds romantic. It's what happens when two people stop building separate lives and start building one vision together. It's the moment you realize that what you're creating is bigger than your individual ambitions, and that realization doesn't diminish you, it amplifies you. Shared purpose is the glue. It's what holds couples together when the daily grind gets heavy, when the excitement fades, when life throws challenges that test everything you thought you knew about love. Because here's the truth: attraction fades, chemistry evolves, but shared meaning, the beliefs, values, and goals that two people align around, that becomes the compass. It gives direction. It provides a sense of purpose that transcends the emotional highs and lows. And when you have that, you're not just in a relationship, you're on a mission together. I've watched relationships collapse because the people in them were moving in different directions. Not because they didn't love each other, but because love without alignment is just two people standing still, waiting for the other to change course. And I refuse to build something that fragile. I refuse to invest my heart in a connection that doesn't have roots deep enough to weather the storms. So I'm preparing for something different. I'm preparing for us to look at the world and say, this is what we're building. This is what we stand for. This is the life we're creating together. That's what shared meaning looks like. It's the rituals you create, the traditions you build, the goals you set as a unit, not as individuals who happen to share space. It's aligning your values so deeply that when life forces you to make hard decisions, you already know which way to turn because you've built the framework together. It's speaking your shared purpose aloud and letting it remind you why you chose each other in the first place. And here's what most people miss. Shared purpose doesn't erase individuality. It enhances it. You don't lose yourself in the process. You find a version of yourself that's stronger because it's connected to something larger. You become part of a team that identifies as more than just two individuals. You become partners who understand that the sum of what you're building is greater than what either of you could accomplish alone. Think about the best partnerships you've ever seen, the ones that last decades, the ones that survive loss, financial strain, illness, distance. What holds them together? It's not passion. Passion is the spark, but shared purpose is the fuel. It's the unshakable understanding that you're dedicated to the same thing, that when one of you stumbles, the other doesn't question the mission, they hold space for the struggle and keep moving forward. That's the kind of partnership I want with you. Not one where we're constantly negotiating whose dream matters more, but one where our dreams are so deeply intertwined that we can't imagine pursuing them separately. Where working towards a shared vision becomes the most literal and powerful form of connection we have. Because when you're building something together, a family, a business, a legacy, a life, you're not just partners, you're co-creators. But here's where it gets real. Shared purpose doesn't protect you from challenges, it equips you to face them. Every partnership encounters obstacles, financial strain, external pressure, interpersonal conflict, unexpected crises that force you to adapt or collapse. And the difference between partnerships that survive and those that don't isn't the absence of problems. It's resilience. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It's not just bouncing back, it's adapting and growing stronger in the face of adversity. And in partnerships, resilience is built on trust, communication, and mutual support. It's what allows you to weather storms together and emerge more cohesive, more aligned, more certain that you made the right choice by building that resilience now. Not by avoiding hard things, but by facing them, by learning how to sit with discomfort, how to communicate when it's messy, how to support someone even when I don't have all the answers. Because when challenges come, and they will, I want to be the kind of partner who sees them as opportunities for growth, who doesn't run, who doesn't shut down, who leans in and says, let's figure this out together. That's what resilient partnerships do. They view setbacks not as insurmountable walls, but as chances to innovate, to learn, to strengthen their strategies. They approach adversity with determination, derive meaning from it, and devise creative solutions. And they do it together because the close-knit environment of partnership fosters something you can't manufacture alone: compassionate witnessing. Compassionate witnessing is when your partner senses you're struggling and offers support without being asked. It's the intimacy that creates a reflective safe space for recovery and healing. It's knowing that when you fall, you won't fall alone, that someone is watching, waiting, ready to hold you up until you can stand on your own again. And that kind of support doesn't just help you survive challenges, it transforms them into moments of deeper connection. Have you ever experienced that? That moment when someone saw you at your lowest and didn't flinch? When they stayed and loved you through it anyway? That's what I'm preparing to offer you. Not conditional support that disappears when things get hard, but unwavering, compassionate presence that says, I'm here, we're in this together, and we're going to come out stronger on the other side. Because love isn't just an emotion, it's a transformative force. It shapes identity. It fuels growth. It heals wounds that logic can't touch. And when it's rooted in shared purpose, it becomes unstoppable. Love is a catalyst for growth. It encourages you to step outside your comfort zones, to become vulnerable, to embrace change. It nurtures you, giving you the confidence to take risks, to dream bigger, to develop into your fullest self. And in relationships, that growth isn't one-sided. It's mutual. It's both partners pushing each other toward their highest potential, holding each other accountable, reflecting back strengths and areas for improvement. That's what I want with you. A partnership where we don't just accept each other as we are, where we actively challenge each other to become better, braver, more aligned with who we're meant to be. Where love isn't passive, it's intentional. Where we look at each other and say, I see who you're becoming, and I'm going to help you get there. Because self-love is the foundation for all other forms of love. When you truly accept and nurture yourself, you attract healthier, more fulfilling relationships. And when you bring that self-love into a partnership, it expands outward. It influences the world with kindness and understanding. It gives life meaning, inspiring you to live with greater intention and authenticity. That's the kind of love I'm building. Not the desperate, needy kind that demands validation, but the kind that's rooted in wholeness. The kind that says, I'm already complete, but with you, I become more. The kind that doesn't drain, it energizes. That doesn't limit, it liberates. That doesn't create dependency, it fosters resilience. And resilience matters because life doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't ask permission before it disrupts everything you thought you had figured out. But when you have a shared reality, a deep alignment of values, beliefs, and purpose, you can face those disruptions with less uncertainty. You can weather stressful life events and world crises because you're not navigating them alone. You have a partner who shares your reality, your vision, your commitment to the mission you're building together. That shared reality creates greater relationship satisfaction and commitment. It gives life meaning. It grounds you and raises your perspective above daily events to a wider view, one that reminds you what really matters. And when challenges come, you don't question whether you're on the right path. You return to that deep shared goal and find solace in the understanding that you're dedicated to the same thing. So when I say my heart knows it's you, I'm saying I already feel the pull toward that shared purpose. I already see us setting mutual goals, aligning our paths, building something that neither of us could create alone. I already know that when life tests us, and it will, we won't crumble. We'll adapt. We'll grow. We'll emerge stronger because we chose to face it together. That's not fantasy. That's preparation. That's the intentional work of building resilience, fostering shared meaning, and choosing to believe that love isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you build, something you protect, something you nurture every single day, even when it's hard, even when the world tells you it's easier to walk away. And I'm not walking away. I'm walking toward you, toward us, toward the shared vision that's already forming in the space between what I know and what I feel, toward the partnership that will redefine what I thought was possible, toward the love that doesn't just sustain me, it transforms me. Let me be honest with you about something most people don't want to hear. Love isn't just a feeling that washes over you and carries you through life on some effortless wave. That's infatuation. That's chemistry. That's hormones doing what they do best, creating an illusion that this thing will sustain itself forever without any work. But real love, the kind that lasts, that's a choice. A decision you make every single day, even when the feeling isn't there, even when it would be easier to walk away. Love is a choice and a decision because your actions determine if it lives on or ends. You are in control of how you act in your relationships and how much you push past conflict and challenges. And when you decide to work on communication, trust, intimacy, or emotional security, you're choosing love. You're not waiting for the mood to strike. You're not hoping the magic returns on its own. You're actively building it, protecting it, nurturing it with deliberate, conscious actions that say, this matters, you matter, we matter. That's what I'm preparing for. Not the honeymoon phase. Not the easy days when everything feels effortless. I'm preparing for the ordinary Tuesday mornings when life is loud and demanding, and the last thing I feel is romantic. Because those are the days that define us. Those are the moments when love stops being a noun and becomes a verb. When it's not something you have, it's something you do. Commitment is 80% of the equation. Emotion is 20. And I know that ratio sounds harsh. I know it feels like I'm stripping the romance out of something that should be magical. But stay with me, because this is where real intimacy lives. In the conscious, intentional decision to choose each other for better or for worse. To love each other daily, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Hormones may continue making you feel sexually attracted to your partner, but that's different than love. As a relationship grows, hormones are no longer the driver of the feelings. That means you need to be the driver. You do this by actively choosing to be a loving partner, by showing up, by demonstrating affection, by refusing to belittle or dismiss or take for granted the person you chose to build with, by making small gestures of appreciation and consideration that go a long way toward forming unbreakable bonds. That's the kind of partner I'm becoming. One who doesn't wait for the mood to be right, who doesn't need perfect conditions to show love, who understands that choosing love in everyday scenarios improves interpersonal connections and positively impacts mental health and well-being. Because when you choose love consistently, you're not just strengthening a relationship. You're creating a foundation that can withstand anything life throws at it. But here's where it gets deeper. Choosing love isn't just about commitment. It's about vulnerability. It's about letting down your guard and allowing your partner to see the real you, your flaws, doubts, dreams, and strengths. And that's terrifying, because vulnerability feels like weakness in a world that prizes strength and self-sufficiency. But the truth? Vulnerability is the key to forging deep and authentic connections. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you open the door to genuine emotional intimacy. You create opportunities for meaningful relationships. You build trust. You foster authenticity. And when authenticity is met with acceptance rather than judgment, it reduces anxiety and self-criticism. Both people are set free from roles and expectations, creating space for love as you genuinely are, not as you think you're supposed to be. That's what I want with you. A relationship where we don't perform, where we don't hide behind masks of perfection, where we show our true selves, imperfections and all, and trust that the other person can handle it. Because over time, these moments of shared openness form the backbone of an unshakable trust, ensuring both partners know they can rely on each other emotionally. A climate of vulnerability means each partner's feelings and experiences are welcomed without fear of dismissal or attack. It transforms partnerships from mere coexistence into true emotional intimacy, where both people feel seen, valued, and loved for who they are. And that kind of intimacy doesn't happen by accident. It happens because both people choose it. Because both people are brave enough to reveal themselves and patient enough to hold space for the other person's revelations. Have you ever been loved like that? Have you ever felt safe enough to show someone the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding? That's the standard I'm setting. Not because I'm perfect, but because I've learned that individuals who are more open and vulnerable in their interactions tend to report higher levels of relationship satisfaction and intimacy. They build stronger, more resilient connections. They create relationships that can weather storms because they're built on truth, not illusion. And here's what nobody tells you about that kind of connection. It requires balance. It requires both togetherness and independence. Because while emotional intimacy is the foundation, sustainable partnership also requires both people to pursue personal interests and maintain healthy boundaries. You can't pour everything into a relationship and expect to thrive. You need space. You need individuality. You need the freedom to be yourself, even within the context of us. Togetherness is the foundation of emotional and physical intimacy. Spending quality time together, sharing experiences, and nurturing emotional bonds deepen the connection between partners. But independence allows for personal growth and fulfillment. It ensures that both partners have the space they need to evolve, to pursue passions, to maintain a sense of self that isn't entirely wrapped up in the relationship. That's the balance I'm learning to create. The ability to be fully present with you while maintaining my own identity. To support your interests, your goals, your growth, without sacrificing my own. Because the strongest relationships feature strong emotional intimacy while both partners pursue personal goals and interests. Partners thrive when they support each other without sacrificing independence. This means setting clear boundaries. It means communicating openly about needs, desires, and the space required to feel whole. It means planning quality time together while also honoring the need for solitude, for separate social circles, for individual pursuits that recharge and inspire. It means practicing self-care not as an indulgence, but as a necessity, because you can only bring your best self to the partnership when you're taking care of yourself. And it means being flexible, because balancing independence and togetherness is an ongoing process that requires adjustment as circumstances and needs change. It's not something you figure out once and never revisit. It's a constant negotiation, a rhythm you find together, lose, and find again. And that's okay, because flexibility ensures that both partners feel fulfilled and valued, even as life evolves around you. So when I say I'm choosing you, I'm not saying I'm losing myself. I'm saying I'm bringing my whole self to the table and trusting that you'll do the same. I'm saying I'm committed to building something where we function as a cohesive team, pursuing compatible goals, while still maintaining the individual passions and interests that make us who we are. I'm saying I understand that love is both intimacy and space, both presence and freedom, both choosing each other and choosing ourselves. That's the paradox of healthy partnership. You have to be willing to merge without disappearing, to connect deeply without losing your edges, to build shared memories while still creating your own. And when you get that balance right, something extraordinary happens. You create a relationship that doesn't drain you. It energizes you. It doesn't limit you. It expands you. It doesn't force you to choose between love and growth. It makes them the same thing. And here's what I know for certain. When you finally arrive, I won't be some half-formed version of myself, waiting for you to complete me. I'll be whole. I'll be present. I'll be someone who's done the work to understand that love is a choice, that vulnerability is strength, that balance is essential. I'll be someone who can choose you daily, not out of need, but out of intention, not out of fear, but out of faith. Because I've learned that creating a habit of gratitude and sharing how you feel with your partner is what makes love last. I've learned that leaning in and working through conflict shows that you're choosing to love rather than abandon the connection. I've learned that while the intensity of feelings may change over time, you can still choose to love that person day after day. And I will. I'll choose you when it's hard, when it's messy, when the world is demanding and the feeling has faded, and all that's left is the decision. I'll choose you in the quiet moments and the loud ones, in the ordinary and the extraordinary, in the presence and in the space. Because that's what real love is. Not a feeling that happens to you, but a decision you make every single day for the rest of your life. That's my pledge. That's my promise. That's what my heart knows about you, about us, about what we're going to build together, and I'm ready. There's a word I keep coming back to: devotion. Not the desperate kind that clings out of fear, but the kind that recognizes worth and responds to it. The kind that's tied to what's important, meaningful, significant. Devotion isn't passive admiration. It's active investment. It's looking outward and saying, "You matter enough for me to pour everything I have into this." And that's what I feel when I think about you, about us, about what we're going to build together. Devotion is different from attachment. Attachment focuses on what the relationship provides for you: security, comfort, validation. But devotion looks beyond that. It sees the other person's worth and responds with a level of commitment that goes deeper than self-interest. It says, "I'm not here because you complete me. I'm here because I choose to build something with you that's bigger than either of us alone." And that choice, it's not made once. It's made every single day, in 1,000 small ways that most people never notice. Being committed for the long term has a powerful influence on how you behave in a relationship. It promotes actions that serve the best interest of the couple, rather than the short-term interest of the self. It makes you willing to sacrifice, to forego immediate gratification for the good of the partnership. Not because you're losing yourself, but because you're investing in something you believe in, something you're devoted to, something that feels like gravity pulling you toward a future you can't fully see yet, but you trust is there. And trust is everything. Trust is the foundation. It's what allows you to keep faith in each other, in the relationship, in the plan you're building together, in love itself. Without that faith, commitment becomes obligation. Devotion becomes duty. But with it, everything changes. You move from evaluating the relationship to building it. You stop asking, "Is this working?" and start asking, "What are we creating?" That shift is what I'm preparing for. The moment I stop protecting myself from you and start building with you. The moment I take everything I've learned about presence, vulnerability, shared purpose, balance, and pour it into something real, something lasting, something that doesn't just survive the years, but deepens with them. Because here's what I know about long-term love. It requires freedom within commitment. It requires both people to stay devoted through passion and routine, through intensity and ordinariness. New lovers get lost in their devotion, choosing each other over all else. But as time goes by, the challenge becomes maintaining that choice when the novelty fades, when life gets loud, when the world demands your attention, and the relationship feels like just another item on an endless list. That's when devotion matters most. Not in the beginning when everything feels effortless, but in the middle, in the mundane, in the moments when choosing each other feels like work, because true commitment values the relationship through every season, through every joy and challenge, through growth and stagnation, through certainty and doubt. It's the daily choice to stay devoted, to invest in the partnership even when the return isn't immediately visible. And I'm making that choice now, before you've even arrived. I'm choosing devotion over distraction, presence over performance, faith over fear, because I understand something most people miss. The strongest commitments are built before the relationship even begins. They're built in the work you do on yourself, in the values you clarify, in the vision you hold for what partnership can be when both people show up whole. Wait, let me tell you what I really mean by that. I'm not waiting for you to fix me. I'm not waiting for you to give my life meaning. I'm building meaning now. I'm creating a life rooted in purpose, aligned with values, committed to growth. And when you arrive, I'm not handing you a project. I'm inviting you into something already alive, something vibrant, something that doesn't need you to exist but becomes exponentially more powerful because you're in it. That's what shared legacy looks like. It's not about building together from scratch. It's about two people who are already building their own lives, choosing to align those visions into something bigger. It's shared values, clear roles, open communication, resilience in the face of risk, and above all, a deep commitment to grow together, not just build together. Legacy isn't a finished product. It's not something you achieve and put on a shelf. It's the ongoing work of creating something sustainable, something that reflects your values, something that outlasts you. And when you build that with someone you're devoted to, something sacred happens. You stop measuring success by individual achievements and start measuring it by what you're creating together. That's the phase I'm entering, the shared legacy phase, where relationships are no longer unexamined or circumstantial. They're deliberate investments, where every connection is a choice rooted in shared values, shared goals, shared commitments, where the bond isn't arbitrary, it's strategic, like roots planted deliberately to weather storms and bear fruit. And you're not random. You're not accidental. You're the person my heart has been preparing for. The one who shares my values, my vision, my commitment to building something that matters. The one who understands that faith isn't just belief, it's the bedrock of a deepening relationship that encourages mutual growth and trust. Faith preserves love, no matter the challenges, no matter the seasons. When faith